Hi, this is Charles Kelly. How you doing? Now, I've entitled today's talk "How to Find Your Gold Mine Property Area." What does that mean? It's basically finding an area that is your particular gold mine in your property search. That is assuming you want to get into property or property investment. And I go to a lot of seminars and webinars, and I attend a lot of training over the years. I've attended you know, dozens of courses and groups and mastermind groups and that sort of thing. And I still do. I believe in training and continuous professional development, if you like. And whenever I go there, it's always interesting. I go in a room and I meet one guy over here who's from Newcastle, and that's his gold mine area. And you meet another one from Cornwall, and this girl over here from Norwich, and they've all got their areas, and they're all gold mine areas to them. And then you get the people who hop around, and people who I meet people in London who invested up north, and then literally people up north who want to invest down in London. And you think, well, that they're hopping around, crisscrossing the country. Does that really make sense? And then you meet the people who say, well, my area doesn't work. This strategy, whatever we're learning about, doesn't work in my area. It might work 200 miles away. It might work in South Wales. It might work in Nottingham, but it doesn't work here. And then the trainer says, "Well, I know someone who's doing it in your area, and I know someone." But if you marked out all the areas where it doesn't work, it would wipe out the whole country. Nothing works in anywhere in the country. So clearly, it's more of an attitude of mind, and also learning how to do things right, and learning how to find your gold mine area, and what should be your gold mine area. So gold mine area can mean many things to many people. There's no one strategy, one gold mine area, but believe me, every area does have its sweet spot. Not every part of the area is going to be right, but there's always a sweet spot in pretty much most areas in the country, unless you're in just an area that's completely, a ghost town or whatever. But there's not many of those, and even in the ghost town, you'll find somebody there making money from property. Now, today it was announced that John Lewis are going to turn some of their stores into housing, and that's an interesting concept, isn't it? I don't know if it'd be the ones in the shopping malls. I can't imagine going into a shopping mall and then going up to your bedroom. But whatever, they're realising that some of the retail things that are going on are not viable anymore, and they're getting into housing. And this is what a lot of developers are doing. They're turning ex-retail properties and ex-offices and pubs into residential. So know your area. As I said, every area has a sweet spot. But I think the thing you need to do is decide on what is your strategy, first of all. What are you going to do in property? Now, property doesn't necessarily mean just buy to let, but buy to let still works for people. 2 million people are doing buy to let. Millions of people are doing it for enhancing their pension, for giving them an income, because you can get a good income from property, more than you can get in the bank, and you can get the possibility of capital growth. But what are you going down that particular route? If that's for you, that's fine. Go down the buy-to-let route. Do you want to be a landlord, or does the idea of being a landlord really put you off? Do you like dealing with people? Can you deal with tenants? Are you good at managing property? Could you build a rent-to-rent business where you don't need any of your own money at all? You can start off by managing property for other people and making money in that way. Do you want to develop properties? Do you want to buy, refurbish and refinance to get your money out? That's another strategy. As I said, do you want to get into commercial conversions where you're converting ex-shops, pubs, retail units into residential, perhaps on properties which started off 200 years ago as residential and become commercial. Now they're going back to residential. There's all sorts of strategies. It's not just one size fits all here. Now, people say, well, I need money to get into property. Well, that's not necessarily true. Some people are cash rich and time poor, and there are people who are time rich but cash poor. You can merge those two people to provide an ideal partnership. Somebody with money can back someone who's got the time to do the legwork and do the research and find properties and find deals and then back them. And many people have got into property that way until they had enough money to then be the cash rich person and then do their own deals. Now, the other thing is, I think you've heard this expression, location, location, location. I think there's even TV programs called location, location, locations. I think what you've got to do is use this expression, view, view, view. Get out there and view properties. Look at properties. You don't have to buy everything you see. You don't even have to buy anything you view. Get out there and view. Start talking to agents. Get online. You can do a lot of work online and start doing viewings. You don't necessarily have to go running around to every viewing, but you should be looking online on Rightmove and Zoopla and sites like that, and talking to agents and actually getting out there and getting your hands dirty and viewing properties. I know a guy in America that had a strategy. He'd view 100 properties. He'd narrow them down probably to about 10, and then make 10 offers with a view to get in one or two deals. The 110-1 strategy. Whereas most people, they don't even go out and look at 10 properties. They might go out and look at one or two and buy one and just get into buy to let, and that's it. They're doing buy to let, but you don't have to do that. You've got to be. I think viewing is obviously free. No one charges you to go out and view property, but you can learn a lot from viewing properties. You can meet other investors at viewings. So there's lots you can do in viewings. Now you might say, well, I haven't got time, I haven't got this. There's all sorts of excuses you can come up with. But I'm going to tell you about a guy. He was disabled. He was in a wheelchair that I knew many years ago, and people around the auction used to call him the wheel. It was a bit of a derogatory term. It's not politically correct, but they'd say, "Oh, here comes the wheel," and he used to come in with his wheel. A big guy came in with a wheelchair. Now he was one of the most successful property people I knew, actually. Very, very successful, and he almost used his disability to his advantage, because he had to really use his time effectively. He couldn't waste any time. Now, this is before the internet, so he did a lot of work on the phone, by post, and even before email was that popular, he was in property. But he became very successful and got other people to do a lot of the running for him. But he still went out to viewings, but obviously it was a bigger effort for him to go out to a viewing than it is for you and I. But what I'm saying is that it didn't put him off. He was still able to make money in property despite the obvious disadvantages that he had. So I was always kind of inspired by the wheel, and a very, very smart guy. He did a lot in auctions, but I'd say he was one of these guys that waited to see what happened at the end of the auction, and then he would start his work and start putting in his offers, whether that be on the phone or at the back of the room or whatever. So he was a very smart guy, and he knew his stuff inside out. He knew every strategy. He knew every trick in the book, as you might say, and he knew the property law as well. So he was very, very well trained at a time before there was any sort of training courses, really. He knew his stuff. So very successful. So you've got to do your training, you've got to do your CPD, and know what you're doing and never stop learning. Now, I'd say your goldmine area should be an area that's close to you, okay? Not more than an hour away, an hour's drive, 45 minutes to an hour's drive. Now, again, I was talking to a guy just recently. Now, he lives in Kent, but he's been buying properties up in Durham. And he said, well, it's a good deal. I get a guy, he finds the properties, he does them up, I buy them. So someone is buying properties, say 25,000. I'm just using this example from a year or so ago. 25,000. He then does them up and repackages them at 35,000. And people from London and the south, like my friend, buy them. And then they get around about a 10% return on their money. So it's not a bad deal. Although, a property in a mining town in Durham has probably not got as much potential to go up in value as somewhere in, an area in the southeast where there's more employment, there's more going on. But nevertheless, he's happy with that. He's sort of retired, so he gets an income. But then I talked to him and said, well, what about your own area in Kent? He said, oh, Deal's gone up massively. I mean, he used to live in Deal, and he's not that far from Deal in Kent and that south coast. But Deal has even been featured on TV shows. A lot of London people go and buying second homes and even moving down there, and the prices have almost gone up to sort of London prices. But he knew Deal years ago, and he was there before that boom started, and he knew the area very well. And then he said, yeah, I should have got into it. My son is a builder and he lives in Deal. Hello, your son is a builder living in Deal, which is a hot area, and he's known it's been a hot area for the last 5 years. That could have been his gold mine area, and he actually had a son who lived there in the area. In fact, to be fair to him, he was telling his son, look, you're not on the property ladder yet. Why don't you find a few properties, do them up, I'll pay for it, and we can work on it. And the son said, yeah. And now the son's only just come back to him and said, what about buying some properties in Deal? That's never too late, but you sort of mean he was on his doorstep. He had a what I would call a gold mine area. In fact, there's several areas around Deal that have gone up a lot in the last 5 years, I'd say. So he had that gold mine area. So look at where you are. I think there's always opportunities where you are. You don't need to go hundreds of miles. I mean, so many people in London are rushing off to South Wales and up north and south and, all over the place to buy properties. In fact, I was talking to someone recently. She called me up and said she sold a property. She lives in Hertfordshire, but she wants to buy holiday flats in Norwich, Norfolk. Not Norwich, but Norfolk, right out on the coast in Norfolk. I said, yeah, that's great, but, why not? I just fancied it. It just looks good. That's fine. But how are you going to manage these properties? Well, I'll get someone to manage it for me, that sort of thing. So then I just started delving a little bit deeper and found out that her partner is actually a builder. And she lives not far from areas that I would consider to be very good areas. In fact, she was born and brought up in Milton Keynes, and there's still lots of opportunities in Milton Keynes, Northampton. She's not far from those areas, and her partner's a builder. So she's got the tools there, to use a builder expression, but she's got the tools and the setup to do developments not far from where she is, because she lives near areas where there's plenty of opportunity. Why go to buy holiday places in far off Norfolk? There's nothing wrong with Norfolk, but it's a long way from where she is, and it's a lot of running around to do, and that is really just glorified buy to let. When she's got the team with her, she's got the power team to do developments. In fact, years ago she worked as an estate agent, and she knows she knows how to find property. So it's not like she hasn't got the knowledge. So what I'm saying is, don't always look for opportunities far away. In fact, I'll tell you who said that. Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill. That's my dog-eared copy. He said, don't always look for opportunities far off in the distance. Look for opportunities right where you are. And that could be whatever business you're in, whatever you're doing. You don't need to sort of go around the world to find things. You can find things where you are. I knew another guy that he's bought properties all over the place. He's bought properties in the Far East. He's bought properties in Spain, which he can't sell for the last 10 years. He's bought properties in France. One of them he took 10 years to sell, and had to sell it for £10,000, a house in France. I said, why didn't you tell me? and he's bought another house in France, which is stuck with it, and then he buys properties all over the place, but not where he is, So his strategy is, he hasn't got a strategy, basically. He hasn't got any particular, so his approach is very scattergun rather than like a laser. So I'd say, if you're interested in getting your property, don't just go out and buy something in France or buy something all over the place. Drop me a line, charles@charleskelly.net, and I'll put you onto some courses and free seminars and webinars that you can go on to start learning how to get into property. Now, there is actually a webinar tonight, and I've just learned about this, so it's a bit short notice, but at 7 p.m. tonight, there is a really good webinar with a friend of mine. I'm actually part of his mastermind group. It's a guy called Kevin McDonald, very, very smart guy. Started off almost broke. He'd done the classic thing of buying a property abroad. He thought that was the way to do it. He bought a property in Bulgaria, lost 100 grand. I think he bought 2 properties abroad. He was £100,000 in debt and living in a bedsit. And then he started getting into property. And he got into it by getting into strategies like rent to rent, starting off with. And then he built up from there. Now he's a multi-millionaire, runs his own property management company, and does train. Very engaging guy, very funny, interesting guy. Now, he's going to talk about what's going on at the moment, right up to date. This is not some 5-year-old strategy. This is something that's right up to date. He's talking about what is going on in the market right now. Now, we know that Rishi Sunak's stamp duty holiday and this new incentive is making the market pick up at the moment. It has boosted the market, and agents have told me that they're very busy with sales at the moment. But you need to, rather than just jumping on the bandwagon of the next big thing, you need to learn what is going to be your action plan, what is going to be your strategy, and that's what Kevin is going to be talking about tonight. And he's going to also have on with him Mark Homer, who is, he is a multi-millionaire, does all sorts of big commercial deals, but he started off buying houses and stopped when I think he got up to about 600 with his partner, but he's now doing much bigger commercial developments, and he's really out there. But he's very, very knowledgeable, and you can really learn from these guys. So I wouldn't miss it. It's on tonight at 7:00. So you'll find out what to do now, how to avoid the pitfalls, how to actually maximise your next 90 days and take the opportunities. Now we've got this really good window of opportunity here. Find out what the quickest cash flow strategies are right now without using your own money, and how to protect if you've got property already, how to protect that cash flow, and a lot more. So click on my link now. There's a link there to join the webinar, and you can learn from what I would, there's no exaggeration. These guys are real masters. They're really at the top of their game. So have a look at that, and I wish you all the best. Thanks for listening, and thanks for tuning in here on Facebook Live. Hi to everyone. John, Vix, great to see you. Marie, and all the people who tune in from all over the world. I'm getting viewers from the Far East and Europe and everywhere. So it's really, really great to see you. And, wherever you are in the world, you're free to join this webinar. It's a free webinar. Join it and learn a bit more about the UK property scene. And there's some good things to learn. So thanks from a very hot, it must be close to 30 degrees here in London. It's a beautiful day, and we've really got some nice hot weather. So don't go abroad to Spain and then get stuck when you come back. Stay here in the UK. There's lots to do, and maybe use your holiday viewing property. Take the phone. Right, we're going to go on a property viewing holiday. We're going to stay in the UK and just view properties all summer. I'm sure that will go down really well like a lead brick. So thanks for listening, and good night. Bye for now.